Life is not optional in its demands. It places weight on your shoulders whether you recognize it or not. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you're confronted with responsibilities, choices, and consequences. And here's the crucial truth: you don't get to live without carrying something. There is no existence free from burden. You can choose discipline, responsibility, effort, that's one kind of weight. Or you can choose avoidance, procrastination, neglect, and that's another kind of weight. But make no mistake, both are heavy. The difference is in where they lead you. Effort is the weight you consciously decide to pick up. It feels difficult in the moment, waking up early, showing up consistently, telling the truth, resisting the easy path. There's pain in that, but it's purposeful pain. It stretches you forward. It builds your character, layer by layer, like muscle under tension. The weight of effort is hard, but it's a constructive hardness. It moves you toward becoming the kind of person you can respect. Regret, on the other hand, is the weight you inherit by refusing to act. It doesn't seem heavy at first. It often disguises itself as comfort, as the relief of postponing the difficult thing, of saying tomorrow instead of today. But over time, that relief rots. It accumulates like rust in the soul, and suddenly what seemed light becomes unbearable. Because regret doesn't just punish you for what you didn't do, it punishes you with the knowledge of what you could have done. It haunts you with the realization of what you could have been. So the question isn't whether life will weigh you down. It will. The deeper question is, asterisk, which weight do you want to carry? Asterisk, one burden shapes you even as it hurts. The other corrodes you even as it seems easy. That's the trade-off. You don't escape suffering. You simply decide whether you'll bear the kind that leads to growth or the kind that leaves you hollow. And if you understand this, truly understand it, you'll realize something liberating. The weight of effort may be heavy, but it is always lighter than the unbearable heaviness of regret. Choose wisely, because the choice shapes the person you become. Effort, at its core, is not merely about working hard. It is about willingly entering into struggle, about voluntarily confronting the challenges that life inevitably places in front of you. That distinction matters, because when effort is imposed on you against your will, it feels like drudgery. But when you choose it, when you consciously decide to bear the load, it transforms into something meaningful. That's the essence of sacrifice, giving up something in the present for the sake of something greater in the future. And every time you lean into effort, you are making that exchange. Think about it this way: discipline, persistence, focus. All of these require energy now. They demand your time, your attention, your comfort, but they also carve out a path forward. They purchase a kind of freedom that avoidance can never buy. If you put in the effort to train your body, you earn the freedom of health. If you put in the effort to discipline your mind, you earn the freedom of clarity. If you put in the effort to build skills, you earn the freedom of competence. The price is paid in effort, but the return is a life that is less chaotic, less suffocating, and more meaningful. There's also a psychological dimension here. When you voluntarily accept the burden of effort, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. You take up the role of someone who acts rather than someone who reacts. That shift in identity is profound because it grounds your sense of worth in what you're capable of enduring and achieving. Every small act of effort, repeated consistently, tells your nervous system, your psyche, and your spirit, I am capable, I can carry this. Over time, that belief reshapes who you are. And here's the paradox: effort feels like it limits you in the moment, but it actually expands you over time. The effort of waking early limits your sleep today, but expands your productivity tomorrow. The effort of saving money limits your pleasure today, but expands your security tomorrow. The effort of honesty may cost you comfort in the moment, but expands your integrity in the long run. So effort is not punishment, it is an investment. And if you truly grasp that, you'll realize something essential. The weight of effort is the down payment on freedom, while the refusal to bear it is the mortgage of regret. Choose the burden that buys you a future worth living. Regret rarely arrives as a thunderclap. It doesn't usually strike in one overwhelming moment. Instead, it creeps in slowly, almost invisibly, through small acts of avoidance and hesitation. You put something off for a day, then for a week, then for a year. You tell yourself the timing isn't right, or that you'll be braver tomorrow, and all the while life moves forward. Time doesn't pause to wait for your readiness. What could have been done, what could have been pursued, begins to slip quietly into the past. At first, it feels like nothing, but in truth, that's how regret is born subtly, silently, one neglected action at a time. The tragedy of regret is not just the absence of achievement, but the loss of potential. It's not simply that you didn't do something. It's that you didn't allow yourself to become the kind of person who could have done it. And that realization cuts far deeper than failure ever could. Failure hurts, but at least it leaves you with growth, with lessons, with a story. Regret leaves you with nothing but a hollow sense of if only. It robs you twice, once of the opportunity, and again of the person you might have become by seizing it. Psychologically, regret corrodes identity. It lingers in the back of the mind as a whisper. You should have acted when you had the chance. And unlike effort, which strengthens you, regret weakens your sense of agency. It convinces you that you're powerless, that the moment has passed, and with it, your chance to change. That's why regret feels so heavy. It doesn't just belong to the past. It invades the present and shapes the future. And the longer you avoid what you know you ought to do, the heavier it becomes. At some point, the weight of missed opportunities feels unbearable. People look back decades later and realize that what seemed small, making the call, taking the risk, saying the truth, was actually the pivot point of a life. This is why effort, however difficult, is always preferable to regret. Effort asks something of you today. Regret demands everything from you tomorrow, and the haunting truth is this: you can recover from failure, but you cannot recover from the life you never lived. Effort and regret do not merely shape the external outcomes of our lives, they shape the very structure of who we are. When you take up the burden of effort, you are telling yourself, in action rather than words, that you are capable of responsibility. Each time you push through difficulty, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can endure and overcome. That repeated pattern of effort builds confidence, not the shallow confidence that comes from empty affirmation, but the deep kind that comes from lived experience. It is the confidence of someone who has confronted resistance and proven to themselves that they can carry it. This, over time, builds character. It solidifies your identity into something stronger, more stable, more trustworthy. Regret, on the other hand, corrodes identity. When you avoid effort, you don't escape the psychological consequences, you simply trade them for something far worse. You may feel relief in the moment, but that relief carries an invisible cost. Each time you choose avoidance, you quietly confirm to yourself that you cannot handle reality, that you must shrink away from challenge. And the psyche records that, it keeps score. That's why regret feels so poisonous. It's not only about the opportunities you missed, it's about the person you failed to become. It whispers, day after day, that you could have been more, and you chose not to. This is why effort, even when it seems painful, is paradoxically a source of strength. It gives you evidence, tangible proof, that you are capable. It strengthens your identity in a way that regret can never do. Regret, by contrast, diminishes you. It hollows you out from the inside. It's not just that you failed to act. It's that you failed to live up to the image of yourself that you secretly know is possible. And the human spirit cannot carry that knowledge lightly. So you face a choice every day. Will you build your identity through the effort of responsibility or allow regret to erode it through avoidance? One expands your soul, the other shrinks it. One makes you stronger, the other makes you weaker. The truth is inescapable. Who you become is determined by what you are willing to endure. And nothing weighs heavier than the knowledge that you refused to carry the weight that would have made you whole. Time is the great equalizer. It passes without pause, indifferent to your excuses, unmoved by your hesitation. You cannot negotiate with it, and you cannot reclaim what it has already taken. That's why the relationship between effort and regret is so deeply tied to time. Effort always costs you in the present, it demands discomfort now, but regret always punishes you in the future. It arrives when the window of opportunity has already closed. The question, then, is simple but unavoidable. Do you want to suffer today in a way that builds you, or suffer tomorrow in a way that breaks you? When you commit to effort, you're essentially making a pact with time. You're saying, I'll endure this pain now so that my future will be lighter. And time rewards that bargain. The small disciplines you embrace today compound into greater freedom later. Effort multiplies. The pain of today becomes the strength of tomorrow, and over time, the weight of effort feels lighter because you've grown stronger carrying it. Regret works in the opposite direction. It defers pain, creating the illusion of ease. You avoid the work today, and you buy yourself a moment of comfort. But time doesn't forget. It tallies the cost and hands you the bill later. And when it comes due, it's heavier because now you don't just have to face the original task. You also face the lost years, the lost potential, and the haunting awareness that you can't get them back. Time compounds regret as surely as it compounds effort. This is why regret feels unbearable as you grow older. The opportunities missed in youth weigh exponentially more in hindsight. You can't rewind to make the call you never made, to take the risk you never took, to build the foundation you never built. The pain of effort fades with time because it strengthens you. The pain of regret intensifies with time because it weakens you. So you are faced with an unavoidable reality. Time will always collect its debt. The only choice you truly have is whether you pay it forward through the weight of effort or pay it back through the crushing weight of regret. And the truth is stark. Suffering in the present may be hard, but suffering in the future is unbearable. Choose to carry today's burden because tomorrow's burden will be heavier. There's a truth that's difficult to accept, but it sits at the heart of life. You don't get to escape suffering. The idea of a weightless existence, free from burden or responsibility, is an illusion. You are going to carry something whether you choose to or not. The only real decision you have is which weight you're going to bear. That's the choice between effort and regret. When you choose effort, you're deliberately taking on a burden in the present. It's not glamorous, it's the weight of discipline, of sacrifice, of consistently doing what is hard. But that weight has purpose. It directs you forward. It builds strength. It makes life meaningful. In contrast, when you refuse that burden, you don't step into freedom. You step into a different kind of suffering, one that is far more corrosive. That is the suffering of regret, of knowing that you abandoned the path you could have taken, of realizing too late that you had the chance to become something greater and you let it pass. What's important to understand is that both paths demand a price. You either pay through the struggle of effort or you pay through the agony of regret. There is no third option, and this is where people often deceive themselves. They think that by avoiding effort, they're avoiding suffering altogether. But what they're really doing is deferring it, delaying it until it becomes unbearable. The burden you refuse today returns tomorrow, heavier and more relentless. So the choice comes down to this. Do you want to carry the empowering suffering that shapes you into someone stronger, or the destructive suffering that leaves you hollow? One builds resilience, the other builds despair. One expands your capacity to live fully, the other shrinks your life into something you barely recognize. And here's the reality that should stir you awake. Your life will, in the end, be defined by the weight you choose to carry. You cannot escape it, but you can choose it, and that choice, made daily, determines who you become. So choose effort, however heavy it feels, because regret is always heavier. And nothing is more tragic than realizing too late that the burden you avoided was the very thing that would have set you free.